Hello, hello. I hope you're well. I hope you've been writing. I hope things are going well for you. Just kind of been making some progress myself. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Deb. I've been making some progress myself on the series, which is what I said I wanted to do for the for Nano. I've mostly been working on In War, but this morning I came up with an idea for a scene in a different one in the series, early in the series. So I just wrote that out. So, hello, Deb. So yeah, slow progress, but definitely making progress. And I also, because most of my time this morning, hello, Rebecca. I was, where is it? I was working on the outline, and yeah, that was a lot of my morning, trying to work out kind of what was supposed to go where roughly, and so I've had to go back to the drawing board about where I am in War. So today I have, let me just put mine in and I can tell you how many words I have, because I don't have that many words, but I've definitely been writing 7, 4, 5. I've got 400 more words now than I did yesterday. I can definitely say that. So yeah, exactly 400. So that's where I am. So yeah, I'm making progress. How are you guys doing? How's the writing going? Thank you, Rebecca. Hey, Catherine. Hello, Allison. Aloha. Deb, I just have 68 words. Very glad for your 400. Oh, thank you, Rebecca. But 68 is 68, Deb. That counts. All right, I'll put you in here. 60. Deb. Deb is on the board. Is this the right line? Yeah, 60. Excellent, excellent. 2,300 even. Even Steven. Catherine, does copying a 1901 newspaper article out count? If you're putting it in the book verbatim, technically, yeah, it's part of the book. So, yeah, 60 is better than 0, exactly. Catherine, flowers. Flowers? Sorry, I was trying to find emojis. Sarah, I don't have my word count in front of me, but I will update the spreadsheet later. Excellent. So have you been writing? Have you been having success? Just let me know, please. You guys are great. I mean, you're so kind to each other, which is awesome. So, oh, flowers, very pretty. Sarah, I got words yesterday evening and today. Excellent, excellent. I am glad to see it. Hello, all. Ginny says back. It works with crazy hours, slow going. Everyone here is slow going at the moment, but that's okay, because any progress is progress. Deb, admittedly going slow now that I'm in a dark spot in the story. That can happen too. It's hard. It's hard to sit in the middle of that. Oh, here we go. Catherine, I'm thinking of doing an overview or summaries and putting the full articles in an appendix or something. That would make sense. That would make sense. Yeah, I'm afraid I haven't written nonfiction, so I don't have much to add as far as the best way to go forward with things like that. I mean, is it, I guess it depends if it's narrative nonfiction or just nonfiction. So. Catherine, Deb, can you start writing as if the dark thing has already happened? Okay. Yeah, but and I mean the reason I write in different genres is because I can put, you know, they become emotional buckets. They become. Thank you. They become emotional buckets where you, if I have these feelings, I can put them here. If I have these feelings, I can put them there, and so on. So it can be hard, but it's excuse me. It can be hard, but it can. It helps to. Sorry. It helps to get it out. It helps to vent it. So I got distracted and my brain didn't want to re-engage. Deb, for my technical writing, really makes use of appendices. Excellent. Rebecca, I think so. I write in scenes. You can start anywhere in the story if that's your way of writing. That works. That works. So, haven't seen Aletha in a while. Boy, she just plowed ahead. She was beyond what the what Nana was saying. You should get a day if you break it up over the month, and maybe she's finished. Maybe she just really zipped ahead. Maybe she finished. I don't know. Deb, perhaps I'll skip the dark thing for now. Whatever works. Whatever works. Okay. All right. So, did anyone else want to talk about some numbers, or was there anything you wanted to talk about in particular? Okay. All right. Well, okay, that works. Rebecca, what do you have for us today? Well, it's not a. I don't know that it is particularly actionable, but it is, I think, something to consider. And because there's a book that I've been reading called The Midnight Disease. Have you heard about this? It's been out for a while, but The Midnight Disease. Oh, Ginny. Wait. Ginny has words. I did 487 the last day before I fell off the face of the earth. 487 for Ginny. Let me put that in. Ginny. I'll put you in for 487. Excellent. 1702. Nice. Okay. Excellent. Yes. Excellent, Jenny. All right. So I have been reading this book called The Midnight Disease. And basically it's about, specifically it's about something called hypergraphia. Catherine's done about 800. Actually, all right, I'll put you back in here, Catherine. 800. Okay, got you down for 800, so which puts you at 1200. Well done, well done, well done. Okay, does anyone know what hypergraphia is? I mean, like, have you heard of this? Is this, everybody being nice to each other? I love it. Okay, well, I'm not hearing that you guys are familiar with this. So, okay, the midnight disease is it's mainly about hypergraphia, and hypergraphia is hyper writing, graphia. Hypergraphic sounds interesting. Something about handwriting. There we go. It is people who start writing and can't stop. Basically, they it's like the opposite of writer's block. They can't. They're obsessed. They become obsessed with writing. They just write every piece of paper, every blank screen, and they just write and write and write. Allison, I wish I had that. Yes, which is why I started reading the book. But it is actually a form of mania. And it can be a problem, because the thing is that just as in, if you think about it, procrastination or not writing is most often caused by perfectionism, the inner critic just like coming down on you like a monster and stopping you from moving forward. Hypergraphia is when your inner critic seriously just disappears. Poof. And because what the person ends up writing, there may be some pearls in there, but a lot of it is just like, it's like reading Ulysses. Deb, I had a little bit of that one night. You just write. But but this book is about, they studied the different parts of the brain, and they've been trying to, there's really been work with brain scan imaging to look at creativity and look at, what's going on in the brain. And this book, and they talk about how certain kinds of there's a line between mental illness and creativity. And there's also a line between intelligence and mental illness. And it has to do with how much the brain is processing. So, for instance, there's this quote here. Despite a promising career, my friend sometimes thinks she would be more productive if she had the same bipolar disorder that runs in her family. A fact that makes her aunt fondly call her, quote, my little crazy wannabe. And apparently there is a Mandarin equivalent of this phrase in Chinese. But anyway, and in fact, what they have found is that close relatives of people with bipolar disorder are generally more productive than the sufferers themselves and than the general population. Other temporal lobe disorders can tell us about the drive to write. The chief is Wernicke's aphasia. Please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing this. It's a problem with language comprehension caused by damage to an area of the temporal lobe called conveniently Wernicke's area. Wernicke's aphasics, unlike hypergraphics, speak much more than they write, probably because their brain damage makes writing too difficult. And while their language is at least partly nonsensical, it is generally delivered with a cheerful grin, since they are unaware they are not making sense. In fact, they often report feeling liberated from the need to be coherent. Schizophrenia is another brain disorder that sometimes causes hypergraphia. Like those suffering severe mania, however, severe schizophrenics are rarely able to do much meaningful writing. A classic example of a high-functioning schizophrenic who became hypergraphic is Theodore Kaczynski, the Unabomber. It came out a few years ago. I'm not really sure. With his copious manifestos and journals. And the fact that unlike the long list of manic depressive professional writers, there is no equivalently long list of successfully published schizophrenics. In part, this may derive from the emotional distance that separates most schizophrenics from other people and makes their writing less accessible. There's some other, I'm just scanning because there's some really, I'm scanning my highlights here. Now this is interesting because I think this can in some ways help us writers. Arguably, the biggest group of amateur writers comprises those who are suffering from something. Bereavement, illness, exile, injury to self-esteem, adolescence. Suffering triggers the limbic system and temporal lobe activity through their roles in emotion and increases the desire to write and communicate. I see this in my hospital practice, where patients frequently bring me unpublished memoirs they've written about their illness. So the more you get into your emotions, possibly the more you will want to write. What other medical illness spurs normal people to write prolifically? The chief cause is not quite illness, but nearly. Love. Especially unhappy love. Other forms of suffering included social upheaval, exile, and war. May all trigger writing. At least in this country, though, they are less likely than love to do so because perhaps because they're external threats that require action, and action takes away from the time for writing. But the anguish, the words we write, the stories we tell ourselves, serve us Pygmalion-like as our artificial Galatea until she returns. Hello. In bereavement, the need to tell these stories can become unbearable. So it's a way of processing, but also the emotional parts of our brains are so activated that we are more likely to write. So there's also drug-induced hypergraphia. About 10 days before this doctor, hi, come on, move. You can't stay there. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And you can't have that. About 10 days before this doctor saw a patient, she suddenly started writing constantly. She wrote in the gym, on her pocketbook, in her therapist's office, she wrote a 10-page letter to her parents while they were in the room. Since many of our patients' problems are difficulties we doctors have accidentally caused by our interventions, I asked her about new medications. Turns out the writing began soon after her psychiatrist had tried one or more energizing neuroleptic medications to help her disorganized thoughts. It's a drug that can stimulate a mild, nearly manic state in some people for a week or two after they start it. And in fact, Anna's hypergraphia soon faded after she stopped the drug. And drug-induced hypergraphia is not rare. Here's a tidbit. Here's a little piece of knowledge to tuck away in your head. Hi. For example, Robert Louis Stevenson, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, was written during a 6-day cocaine high during which he generated 60,000 words. Dang. Dang. Man. Let me see. There was something else in here. James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake, which is unreadable. It is particularly interesting because it seems to deliberately imitate the language that some hypergraphic schizophrenic writers use involuntarily. The neologisms, onomatopoeia, scrambled word salad. Joyce's daughter, Lucia, was schizophrenic. He was devoted to her and refused to accept her diagnosis for years. Carl Jung was the 20th and the only doctor he went to, and the only one not to immediately dismiss her as hopeless. So there's that as well. All right. The drive to do thing, is largely controlled by the limbic system, a group of brain nuclei that interact strongly with the temporal lobes. Admittedly, separating drive and talent is something complicated because they're so enmeshed. When someone is highly motivated to do something, that person is likely to learn to do it well. And when someone can do something well, especially when it wins praise, the ability to do it often increases the drive to do it. The consensus, however, seems to be that the drive to do something, is surprisingly more important than talent in producing creative work. Basically, the studies could be summed up in Thomas Edison's famous quote, "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." Well, he also stole from the people working with him who were willing to work with him, but that's not what we're talking about. Holy crap, that's a lot of coke writing. Yes. Yes, it is. So, even in complicated fields, leaders often have creativity that strongly reflects their productivity. He points out that about 250 Western composers he points out that of about 250 Western composers, 3 alone, Mozart, Beethoven, and Bach, are responsible for almost 1/5 of the standard repertoire. The guy who was studying all this, his argument, Simonton's argument is that the volume of a writer's total output is one of the best predictors of the amount of his or her truly creative work. And it has an interesting implication that if the number of great works is directly proportional to the total number of works, then the writers with the most masterpieces will also have the greatest number of justly ignored works. As the poet W.H. Auden put it, the chances are that in the course of his lifetime, the major poet will write more bad poems than the minor. Thank you, Allison. Sarah, yeah, Edison was 95% theft. Okay, so that's more about that. Hello, dear. Oh, you okay? You just cracked your little tiny skull against the side of the e-reader. You all right? Oh, you're a sweetheart. And all right, so that's the other part of the brain. And all right, that was in that movie. Hang on, sorry, 1 second. Ah, this is true. Okay, the Greeks emphasized not intelligence, but passion and drive as the font of creativity. Socrates and others expected poets to receive their ideas in a frenzy, possessed by the muses. Plato even thought that the sane should not be allowed to write poetry. He who approaches the temple of the muses without inspiration, in the belief that craftsmanship alone suffices, will remain a bungler, and his presumptuous poetry will be obscured by the songs of the maniacs. Even before the mad romantics, throughout the Renaissance and Enlightenment, the notion of melancholy, which also included manic depressive illness, was strongly linked to creativity. Indeed, melancholy was so valued that poems such as Milton's, one of his famous poems, was written in its honor. So, James, are we talking about... So it's talking about mental illness running through families and how it will affect different people. And it's like if they're ill to a point, but not fully, they're likely to be more productive, and they are more productive, so therefore seem more creative and what have you. So there's this weird point at which the brain is making connections, and lots of connections, and unusual connections. Because I know there was something in here about mentally ill people may become creative artists because of the novelty of their perspective. An outsider may have startling thoughts about normal life, whereas we all know too well what the sane have to say. A colleague has a painter, who had a stroke that distorted his color vision. She encouraged him to continue to paint anyway. About a year later, he thanked her profusely and told her that his work had actually become more popular because of the way his colors hover intriguingly between the known and the strange. So there is a novelty in how the brain is processing, and it says where perhaps people are able to show the world more clearly because they see it just a little bit differently. And then I know there was a part up here about So I'm just looking. I'm almost done. Allison, apparently Hamilton was driven to write, even to his detriment. Let me write and publish a paper all about my affair. Yeah. Yeah, genius. Allison, makes me think about the song line from Hamilton. Why do you write like you're running out of time? Hi. How you doing? All right, so that's what I've got there. And and it was in the sense of what I was just saying about like a painter having a novel way of looking at things. There's talk that was it Cézanne who had those elongated figures in these paintings, and some say, well, you could put it down. It isn't just this amazing artistic thing. It's also the fact that he had severe astigmatism. And it may be that what he was painting was to some extent what he was seeing. So just because we have difficulties not only does it not preclude us from being creative, but it may very well be what makes what you're creating extraordinary. So I wanted to share that today. And even though I love Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, it's a great book. I've read the original many times. I do not recommend going on a 6-day cocaine binge. Don't do it. Really, don't do it. Katie, and then there was Dolly. Yes, Dolly. I want to say that he had his own substance abuse issues. Thank you, Deb. You spoil sports, Sebastian. Hey, if you want to go on a 6-day cocaine binge, I can't stop you. I just really don't recommend it. Considering it would also probably cost you cost you the price of your house, too. Dali was, yeah. Catherine, there's so many artists who have issues with mental health. It's common. Yep. Oh, thank you, Aletha. There you are. Long figures in art is Mogliani. Thank you. Lynott, or don't get high on laughing gas like Coleridge. Yeah. So, Sylvia Plath. Yep. There's a book called Daily Rituals where the author went and found the daily creative rituals, things that famous creative people would do every day. And I was reading through it, and I kind of stopped right around the point near that wasn't that many people in, but the point where there was one famous male writer back in the 50s, something like that, who liked to, well, first of all, he wrote on top of his refrigerator. He was tall, and refrigerators were shorter back in the 40s and 50s and whatnot. So he wrote on top of his refrigerator, naked, or nearly naked. And I'm not going to tell you any more than that, because it was self-indulgent. And at that point, I was like, I don't know if I want to read this book. And as he wrote, he'd finish papers, and he'd just throw them on the floor. And then I guess once a day, his assistant or a maid or somebody would come in and gather up the papers. What kind of self-indulgent, entitled, mid-20th century white man do you have to be to get away with that? And people complain I have a cat. At least I'm dressed. I'm covered, and I had a shower today, and I shower every day, and yeah. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Ugh. So anyway, oh, now I'm curious. Hang on. Ooh, Lynott, Edith Wharton would write longhand in bed and toss the paper on the floor so her typist could get it. Oh yeah, Allison, let a woman try that. No, sweetheart. Now I'm curious. I've got the book here. Let me see. Where did I leave off? Now I'm curious. By the way, I've got a Kindle Oasis. I love this thing. I had the other one they had, but I saved up and got this. I love this thing. But anyway, oh no, oh nay. Daily Rituals: How Artists Work by Mason Curry. Catherine, I thought that was pretty standard behavior for men in the 50s, to be honest. What's different about the Oasis? I have a Paperwhite. Well, this is sitting in a case. It's very thin. It's very light. The screen is bigger. It has these nice, the buttons are on the side, which of course this is almost entirely let's see here. Yeah, I don't think it'll sort of, kind of, is it going to just white out, or is it going to, no, it's just whiting out, but it's extremely light, and it's got a much bigger memory, and I absolutely love it. Plus it's backlit. So, but it's still the e-ink. So it doesn't have the same problems you get reading like on a phone. But anyway, I love this thing. But anyway, Francis Bacon, his studio was gross. Simone de Beauvoir, yeah, she had that weird relationship with what's his name? And oh yes, Thomas Wolfe. My mistake. It was in the 30s. How much of this can I read without keeping it clean? Thomas Wolfe, who only lived 38 years, 1900 to 1938. Wolfe's prose has been criticized for its overindulgent and adolescent character. So it's interesting to note that the novelist practiced a writing ritual that was similar. Starting in 1930, let's see. Wolfe typically began writing around midnight, priming himself with awesome quantities of tea and coffee. Since he could never find a chair or table with which he was totally comfortable for a man of his height, he was 6'6". He usually wrote standing up, using the top of the refrigerator as his desk. He would keep at it until dawn, taking breaks to smoke a cigarette at the window or pace through the apartment. Then he would have a drink and sleep until around 11. In the late morning, Wolfe would begin another stretch of work, sometimes aided by a typist, who would arrive to find the previous night's pages scattered all over the kitchen floor. and I cut out part of that. And you can use your imagination based on what I said earlier. Whew. Katie, I have a day full of 11, 11, and 2, 2, 2. Any suggestions with Scrivener? It looks like someone was starting to answer a little bit. I do watch how-to videos on YouTube when I'm trying a new program. Or another thing can be there are a lot of really good, even free templates online for different novels, and it'll like give you ideas like, oh, they put all this stuff in this kind of folder, and they put this here and that put that. So I learned a lot just by gathering up free templates and just plugging, just put them in there, just try and try. And I learned a lot that way too. Going through the manual is a great idea, Rebecca. Catherine, I think they all had weird relationships with what's their names. I like it. Okay. Did Jane Austen have a writing ritual? Well, I not that I'm aware of it. Hang on, let me go to the beginning. Let me see if she's listed. Deb, I just got a small foldable keyboard for use with my phone. It's pretty good so far. Cool. Very cool. Jane Austen. She's here. Let's see what it says. I haven't read that far yet. All of these entries are just literally, it's just one page and then like a little tiny bit here. That's it. That's all. They're small. I just Google for them, Allison. And then they're actual templates you can download. Template for mystery or template for a romance or template for, something like that. Scrivener template. That's what I did. It's one of the things I did. Okay, Jane Austen never lived alone and had little expectation of solitude in her daily life. Her final home, a cottage in the village of Chawton, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Chawton, England, was no exception. She lived there with her mother, her sister, close friend, and 3 servants. And there was a steady stream of visitors, often unannounced. Nevertheless, between settling in Chawton in 1809 and her death, Austen was remarkably productive. She revised earlier versions of Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice for publication, and wrote 3 new novels, Mansfield Park, Emma, and Persuasion. Austen wrote in the family sitting room, quote, subject to all kinds of casual interruptions, her nephew recalled. Her nephew recalled she was careful that her occupation should not be suspected by servants or visitors or any persons beyond her own family party. She wrote upon small sheets of paper which could easily be put away or covered with a piece of blotting paper. There was, between the front door and the offices, a swing door which creaked when it was opened. But she objected to having the little inconvenience remedied because it gave her notice when anyone was coming. That's kind of sad. Rebecca Nora Roberts starts her writing day around 8 or 9 a.m. Starts with an hour of PC gameplay. Cool. I did not know that. Austen rose early before the other women were up and played the piano. Well, the others would be up pretty soon if she was up playing the piano, I would think. At 9 a.m., she organized the family breakfast, her one major piece of household work. Then she settled down to write in the sitting room, often with her mother and sister sewing quietly nearby. If visitors showed up, she would hide her papers and join in the sewing. Dinner, the main meal of the day, was served between 3 and 4. Afterward, there was conversation, card games, and tea. The evening was spent reading aloud from novels, and during this time, Austen would read her work in progress to her family. Although she did not have the independence and privacy that a contemporary writer might expect, Austen was nonetheless fortunate with the arrangement. Her family was respectful of her work. Her sister Cassandra shouldered the bulk of the house-running burden. And that was a huge relief for the novelist who once wrote that composition seems to me impossible with a head full of joints of mutton and doses rhubarb. Yeah, she was only 41 when she died. Yeah, it's very sad. It's very sad. Okay. Sebastian, thanks. I'm nodding my head. Yes, like you can see me. Oh. Okay, so yeah, all right. Well, I think I missed a couple of numbers here while I was talking. Looking for numbers. Let's see here. Let's see here. I don't, oh, they're here somewhere. KD. My number for today is 222 words. Did I put you in already? No, I didn't. Right there, 222. Done. Okay, so that's in. 3,412. Nice. Nice. Okay, and then someone else, I could have sworn someone else had come in. Catherine, okay, you did the 800. There's the 222. Am I missing something? So anyway, from what I was reading today, I think part of certainly what I've learned from, if there's, please tell me if there are more numbers, because I don't see them. Lynette, 100 last night. Oh, great. Great. Let me put that in. Lynette. Hello, dear heart. How you doing? 100 last night. So the 10th. 100. There we go. Cool. So 1950. Very good. Very good. Progress is progress. Thank you. Come on. Getting. What was I going to say? I basically what I got out of that was it can really help if you really want to get into the flow of something, is do whatever you can to immerse yourself in the emotion of the scene. That's really what I got out of that. That the more you can be focused. I mean, mania is this focus, this intense focus, and out of all those different quotes I mentioned, that seems to be a real good way to think of it. I think, but I could be wrong. Aletha, we'll update the Google Doc tonight when I get a chance to write. Excellent. Oh, kidding. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, that's going to do it for me for today. But I'm planning on getting some writing done this evening. And yeah, just keep on keeping on. But are you guys doing okay? Are you enjoying it? Are you frustrated? Toward the middle of the month, it can get really hard. It's actually toward like the end of week 3 that you can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you see what you've done, and you kind of get this wind at your back, that because it's like, I could do this, or I could come close, or I could achieve something great, and it really helps you. But this end of the second week, beginning of the third, middle of the month, brutal. Okay. Catherine, I sent you a small essay in response to my. No, it doesn't count toward the word count, Catherine. But I saw something. I haven't been able to read through it yet, but I did receive a message from you, so I'll look at that later. Thank you, Deb. Wonderful discussion. Yes, thank you for being here, Sarah. Thank you, Catherine. It's good. So good to have you here. Keep me going. Good. Rebecca, Thanks, S. I'll be working on it tonight. Excellent, Catherine. Thank you. All right. All right. Well, what do you think, kitten? Is it time to take off the lipstick and the nails for the day? Anyway, you guys have a great night. All right. Hang in there. Express yourself. Go forth and express yourself. All right. And I'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Keep the words flowing. Exactly. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you for being here every day. Thank you. All right. I'll see you tomorrow.